Sharron Davies has been at the forefront of what you might call the battle to save women's sport. She has campaigned long and hard against the introduction of trans women into women's sports. These are people who were biologically born male but have transitioned, and the argument is that they still retain, despite transitioning, much of their male power, their muscular superiority, the testosterone, and as Sharron quite rightly, in my view, said, this would just be the end of female sports. Now, she has been a hero in this campaign, and we salute her. But yesterday we learnt just what a terrible toll it's taken on her personally. She's been in receipt of hate and bullying, very much a nightmare on social media for her. And also she's put so much time and effort into this that, not to put too fine a point on it, it's left her flat broke. So there's been a cost to this, and I'm very pleased to say that she's going to join us now. Hello, Sharron.
Hello, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, tell us about this. I mean, as I say, I really do salute you. We've been right behind you here at Talk Radio in your campaign. Let's not put too fine a point on it. It's to save women's sport, and you're being increasingly successful in that respect. So congratulations. But it's been hard for you. Tell us what's been going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not quite flat broke. That's newspaper speak for you, to be honest with you. What happened was...
I was going to have to lend you a fiver or something like that.
I know, we're okay. We've still got food, don't worry. And I can't pay my electric bill, but then who can, you know? So,
of course.
My mum sadly died about 4 years ago, and she left me some money, and basically all that money that she left me I've used up. You know, that's what's happened. But my mum always used to tell me the story that when she bought her first house with my dad, which was a long time ago obviously, but you know, in the 50s, she wasn't even allowed to be on the mortgage, because in those days women were not allowed to be on the mortgage. So I always think, well, my mum would have been very proud that that's what I'd used my money for, was to fight for women's rights, because that's really what this is. You know, this is the right for females to have their own sports category. You mentioned, obviously, people that transition. You know, if you are born male, if you are male, so this isn't about being born male and changing your sex, because humans cannot physically change our sex. So, you know, if you are male, you will remain male. They transition by increasing HRT, maybe suppressing their testosterone levels, but all the peer-reviewed studies all over the world, there's been 12 actually, really good reports that have been done, show that you can't mitigate against male puberty. So once a male has gone through puberty, they retain quite a big benefit over females, anywhere between 10 and 30% at Olympic level. And in fact, something like boxing, males at equal weight hit 160% harder than a woman of the same weight. And that is onto a bone density frame that's much less, you know, because again, males have bigger bone density. So in something like rugby, you know, contact sport, it's just a serious injury waiting to happen.
Indeed. Now, I think it's important to point out that what your stance and your campaign, it's not anti-trans, is it?
Oh, God, no.
It's pro-women, if you see what I'm saying.
Absolutely. It's never been anti-trans. You know, I have friends that have trans children, and I've made quite a lot of transgender friends during this process. And the majority of transgender people actually agree, to be honest with you. It's only a small minority of trans activists that actually do this, are so vocal and are very, very abusive. You know, most people are quite happy to work with the science, and that's all I ever wanted to do, was just let's look at the science and work with the science. And the science proves that you can't remove male puberty advantage. So, yeah, I mean, it's only ever been about fair sport. And I suppose the reason I speak about it so much is because I was put through what happened in the 70s and the 80s with the East Germans. They were put on a doping program. They were put through male puberty with steranabol and testosterone when they were young children. And they absolutely dominated the world of women's sport for nearly 20 years. The IOC did absolutely nothing. So a whole generation, including myself, missed out on the medals that they should have had. And I just did not want to see another generation of young girls, you know, have to go through the same thing to prove something that we already know. that males and females are different. You know, we're not better, we're just different.
There is that. Now, you've been obviously the target for a lot of social media bullying and horrible hate campaigns against you. I mean, I experience this from time to time in my prominent media position, and you know, I like to say, I couldn't care less. But actually, when you get 2 or 3 days of it, constantly calling you every name under the sun, threatening to do this, threatening to do that, it does get you down, doesn't it?
Yeah, what they do is very underhanded. So it's not just the abuse that you get online, you know, and the threats to me or to my family. It's the fact that they ring up the charities that you work with. They ring up the companies that you work with. They ring up the businesses that you're endorsing or that you're ambassadors of, and they just tell lies and they just, you know, spread hate. And I've never been transphobic. I have total empathy for anyone that's truly transgendered, you know, gender dysphoric. It must be horrendous. However, as you already said, my stance has only ever been about enabling fair sport for females. You know, I just believe that the females in this country, in the world, deserve the same opportunities in sport that males have. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. It's really very straightforward. And what we find is people that are female who transition, you know, to being men, so transgender men, they still carry on and compete in the women's events, as they did at the NC2As this year, as they did at the Olympics last year. So they don't move into the men's category. They stay in the women's category. They identify as men. And providing they're on testosterone, nobody has a problem. So I don't really understand why the same thing can't happen with transgender women. You know, they identify as women, but they stay in the sex category where it's fair.
Now, as I understand it, fill me in with the details, Sharron, but you've achieved a kind of victory in terms of swimming. Where are we with our other women's sports? Are there other sports where trans women are still allowed to compete against biological women?
Yeah, quite a few. Sadly, British cycling in this country is very bad at the moment. They still have adjusted reduced testosterone for a couple of years. Triathlon have come out and said, no, we're going to have a female classification and an open classification. So again, it's really important to say that no one is banned from sport. They're just banned from the category that they don't qualify for. So, you know, if we have an under-10s race, then everyone above 10, the 15-year-olds, are banned from the under-10s. So they're not banned from sport, they're just banned from the under-10s. So this is the same. You know, this is not about banning anyone. This is just about saying you don't qualify for the female category, so you need to be in the open category. So that's what I've been trying to push for, is that we have this changing of a protected female classification and open classification. So FINA, which is the world swimming body, they've kind of passed that scenario. They've got a 6-month workshop with regards to how they sort of control or mandate the open classification, and they're consulting everybody, you know, including transgender athletes, as they should do. At the moment, World Rugby has said for a long time that they don't allow males into female sport, and we've got the RFU in this country having a vote on this Friday, which is really important because, as I say, in contact sports, I believe it's a serious accident waiting to happen. And when we've got all the stuff in the news at the moment about concussion and neck injury, it's if it's an increased risk, which we absolutely categorically know, we have the scientific proof to show that, then they're literally, you know, putting their hands up and allowing for women to have an increased risk of danger in the sport. So that to me is absolutely criminal, really. So, yeah, hopefully World Athletics seem to be looking as if they're going to follow FINA, which may be hopefully before Christmas. And I would obviously love to see every sport just say, right, protected female classification and open and inclusive classification.
What about the Olympic authorities? What will the next Olympic Games look like in this respect?
Well, that's probably where all the problem comes from. So the rule was changed in 2015. Before that, it used to be that you have to have surgery. So again, this is I think a misconception that most people believe that if you transition, that means that you've lived as a woman for years and you've had surgery, you take cross-sex hormones, you know, everything is different. It really isn't. All you have to do in most instances is just reduce your testosterone levels for a year. That's it. You don't have to have any form of surgery. And that rule was what changed in 2015. So that's how it's made it very, very different from what previously went on. So nobody could actually qualify for the Rio Olympics because it was too soon. So the Tokyo Olympics was the first time that we saw any transgender athletes. And of course, we saw Laura Hubbard in the weightlifting, who'd been retired for 20 odd years and came back at 43,
That's right, yeah.
Competed in the women's weightlifting.
Indeed. Well, listen, Sharron, great to talk to you. I'm glad you're not completely flat broke.
No, I'm not. I'm not, Kevin.
No.
Please don't worry that I'm flat broke. It's
Okay.
just, it's
I'm
been
going to make an
tough.
announcement.
It'd be lying if it said it wasn't.
Sharron Davies is not broke. There's an announcement. And keep up the good fight. It's excellent to talk to you, and I salute you, Sharron. Thank you very much.